What's up, guys? Zeus here with another video. Quick reminder, if you do like what you're watching, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of me and my content. Now, as you can tell by the title of the video, this is the Hunter's Basics Guide. So the whole premise of this guide is going to be to help all the baby hunters out there become pros for the next generation and portion of this game. I'm doing this so that way I can help the NAEU community, because I truly do feel like the NAEU community does have a lot of potential to become well known by the China servers. And to start that, we got to start off strong. We got to start off basics. So yeah, with that being said, we're going to get into our first portion of the Hunter's Guide, and that is going to be map knowledge. Now, for everyone who's played this game, we all know there are a variety of different maps in this game. We have Red Church, we have Arms Factory, we have Sacred Heart Hospital. But as some of you may or may not notice, certain maps are not allowed in certain game modes, and we're going to first start off by that. We're going to start off with the base knowledge of the maps. So maps that are allowed pretty much in ranked game modes go along as the following: Church, Arms Factory, Sacred Heart Hospital, Ever Sleeping Town, Chinatown, Lakeside Village, Moonlit River Park, and Leo's Memory. Those are the 8 maps that are allowed in ranked as of right now. And in those maps, those are the most common maps that you will also see in tournaments. Some more common than others. Cough, cough, Church, cough, cough, Ever Sleeping. But with that being said, those are the 8 maps that go through most of the processes of playing ranked or in tournament in general. Now, on certain maps, as some of you may know, certain characters are stronger than others. You have characters like Priestess that are stronger on Ever Sleeping and Hospital compared to how strong she could be on like Arms Factory or something. You feel me? Like, we have Arms Factory Priestess. It's a cursed meme, but we have it for a reason. So that brings me on now to the importance of knowing these maps. Now, why is it important to memorize these maps? I say it's important to memorize these maps and to know these maps by heart pretty much whenever you see them, despite the game telling you, is pretty much to know what hunters are better on certain maps than others. Like, and I know how I may have worded that may have sounded weird, so in order, just for the sake of, you know, so there's no confusion, when I say memorizing of the maps, I pretty much mean memorizing the hunters that are good on certain maps. Like, let's say on Arms Factory, you have Dream Witch. Dream Witch is probably the best hunter for Arms Factory. Like, it's her, Arms Factory is Dream Witch's playground. The same can be said about Ever Sleeping. While it is a little harder, she can still very much dominate on Ever Sleeping, especially if she starts map pressuring and cipher pressuring. And then you have maps like Leo's Memory, which, I'm gonna be honest, every hunter's pretty much nerfed on that map. Like, Wheel sucks on that map. Dream Witch, I do not recommend playing on that map. There's a lot of hunters that I don't recommend playing on Leo's Memory. Then there's also maps like Moonlit, which hunters, like I said, Wheel are very dominant on. Wheel is also a hunter that's dominant on Ever Sleeping. On, I argue Church, Wheel is a good map as well. So examples like that, just knowing what hunters can be good on certain maps and knowing what hunters are not so good on certain maps is a very key thing, because you don't want to go into a map where it's like, oh, you're playing on Ever Sleeping and Wheel is an option if you play Wheel, but then you decide to say go Ripper or something, or you decide to go like, I don't know, Wax Artist, something along those lines. Hunters that are just not as good on those maps. Because, quite frankly, the maps are bigger, or there are some benefits to those maps that those hunters have that other hunters don't. Like Sculptor on Ever Sleeping, there's a lot of tight areas that you can press statues onto the survivors, whereas Ripper on Ever Sleeping, it's like, oh, I have a foggy. Whatever shall I do besides just make a sharp turn to the right or to the left? And then, you know, you get the gist. there are just basic premises of maps where some hunters are better than others. So it is important as a hunter to remember those maps, so that way then you can pick the best map pick for you. Now, obviously that does go for specialty hunters like me. My specialty hunter is violinist. For those of you that watch my channel, I think anybody that's even seen me play knows that I'm a very big viol fanatic, and I honestly play viol on every map because I just specialize in him. I'm confident in my viol a lot. So, but of course, if we're not talking specialty hunters here and we're talking like in the logistical tournament setting, or we're talking just in you wanting to win, there are maps that you would have to pay attention to in order to make sure there are some hunters that are better than others in other maps. So it is important to keep mind of that. So now, what do you do when you get to certain maps? What happens when you pick a map and you're just like, oh, but I'm unfamiliar with this map. I don't know what to do when I get on this map, even if I am playing a hunter that specializes or is better on this map compared to other hunters. Well, that comes in to knowing spawns, but I'm not going to be doing that portion. I'm going to pass on to that portion to the one, the only, my good friend, Nico, the MRH Nico himself. So with that being said, Nico, take it away.
Jesus. Hi, everyone. My name is Nico, official hunter for MRH team. And yes, what Zeus said is absolutely correct. You really need to know your spawns if you want to be a decent hunter at this game. Now, there's a lot of different maps, a lot of different spawns for each one. I think the map with the most number of spawn points is Leo's Memory with like about 9, if I'm not wrong. Now, you have to be able to chase a survivor properly. You have to know where survivor spawns at the very start of a map. So as soon as you load into the map, you should be able to recognize, okay, this is where I am. If I want to find my first survivor as fast as I can, I have to go this direction, etc. Now, to first get familiar with that, especially if you're newer to the game, something that they can do, something that I did when I was first learning how to become a good hunter, go into a custom match, and then before you load into the game, click on the map information, and then you'll see a button that shows all this spawn points. Just move that around and you'll find lots of different where both the hunter and survivors spawn, and then from there you just have to look at where would be the best rotation for you to take once you spawn into the game. So the best rotation is usually where you're more likely to find the most survivors. So for example, if you spawn into the game, let's say you have a mercenary, seer, forward, and mechanic team comp. Pretty standard competitive comp. You want to go make a rotation so that if the first person you find is the mercenary or the forward, you already have another survivor's spawn point close by, so that you can move there and check to see if that's a better survivor to chase. So, like if you spawn and then move towards a spawn point, but you find out it's the merc, you can think to yourself, oh, that's an unfortunate spawn, but wait, if I move to my right now, I can find another survivor. Hopefully that'll be the mech or the seer, etc. Now, granted, this does take a lot of time to, well, this does take some time to get used to, just recognizing different spawn points, especially since a lot of them can be pretty similar, and might throw you off a little bit, confusing you where you should be going. But I promise you, over time, if you just quiz yourself, like in custom matches or rank matches or quick matches, you will get used to knowing, like, naturally where to rotate. But another thing to keep in mind, though, is the strength of different kiting areas. So every map has a very strong kiting area, and maps also have very bad kiting areas. Every single one. Like on hospital, it's hospital. It's hospital. On red church, it's church. On Chinatown, it's hotel. On Arms Factory, it's factory, etc. All that stuff. Now, sometimes you have to make the decision of, okay, the person I want to chase is in one of the strongest kiting areas. Would it be worth it to chase them there, or would that just be a waste of my time where I get kited and then I lose? Honestly, that all depends on the team comp and just how much time you have already spent rotating around the map trying to find a survivor. So, given that same team comp from before, mercenary, seer, forward mechanic, if let's say you're playing on Arms Factory, you spawn, then you move around, find the mercenary first. Okay, that takes about 15 seconds to find. Then you move away from the mercenary. Then the next thing you find is the forward. Spends another 15 or 20 seconds. At that point, you've lost a lot of time. So you have to think, okay, so the next place I go to has to have either the seer or the mechanic, both good chasing targets. But at that point, you've already given them 30 seconds to decode a cipher, which can give them enough time to get that cipher halfway done. You have to know, okay, do I just commit to this forward, or do I move away to find the mechanic or the seer? If you end up finding the seer in Arms Factory, at that point you just have to commit. Just chase him, get him down, whatever. Do whatever you can to at least get a tie. Because you just spent so much time rotating. And then if you want to move around, and then you find a mechanic in a worse area, that is your ideal situation. Well, not ideal. Ideal would be finding the mechanic straight off the bat. But finding the main decoder in general, just finding a main decoder is the best possible scenario that you can have. But it is better to find them in a worse kiting area, just because then you can get more hits and then possibly even faster down. Now, finding them in a strong kiting area can have a negative effect on you. For example, chasing a mind's eye on inside hospital, that can be very bad because mind's eye can see through walls, they can see exactly where you're going, and just an infinite loop, you know. But if you're chasing like a prisoner in like factory, that's chaseable because he can't really predict your movements, and you're a hunter, you have abilities that you can use to catch up to them, or at least you get some damage to them, etc. So yeah, just these are also things, again, a lot of being a hunter is just practicing, getting used to the game, getting game sense, like what to do is in very specific scenarios, just figuring out what's the best move you can make in that moment. And like Zeus said, just knowing which hunter you're playing, and knowing, can I chase a survivor in this area with this hunter? Would it be worth it? Would I be able to get him down fast enough to be able to get a quick down and to win a game? That's just going to come to your confidence level in the character and just the viability of the character. You know, like playing Sculptor, probably going to be very good no matter which map you're on. But playing like Lizard, which is going to depends. You can't use Lizard inside hospital. He can't jump, you know. But he can do well in other areas, etc. So it's really it all varies a lot depending on who you're playing and how good you are at that character. And yeah, that's all the information on spawns. Zeus, back to you.
All right, thank you, Nico. With that being said, now we're gonna get on to the final section of this introduction, game sense. Now, what is game sense? Game sense is pretty much your overall idea or strategic capabilities when playing this game, or any game for that fact. So game sense is pretty much just how smart are you, pretty much. How aware are you about the in-game mechanics or little things in the game that make you a better player? How aware are you in this game that you know certain things or certain aspects about this game that maybe other players don't know that you do? An example of this can be the following scenario. Say that there's only one cipher remaining with 3 survivors up, and that you have no idea how far the ciphers are, and you notice the cipher wiggling. You could either stay onto the survivor or go to the cipher and force the survivors to begin a new cipher. Now, note that you can also make predictions about how far the cipher is based on what survivors are decoding, whether accelerated is active, whether the cipher makes a noise when you're close to it, or by keeping track on ciphers that have progress and keeping all that information in the back of your mind. This is game sense, strategic thinking that is accurate and can change the game. These thoughts are crucial as a hunter and can very much change the tides of the game if you execute those thoughts. Now, what do I mean by execute? Say as if, sorry, apologies. Say that you know that there's a cipher that is above 50% or something, and you're taking too long to down, let's say, a seer or something, your average kiter or a prospector. You're taking too long to down that survivor, and you know that there's a cipher that's at 50 being worked on. Knowing that you have that cipher at 50, you would then idealistically go to that cipher and leave the chase, because you know that you as a hunter, you cannot let that cipher pop no matter what, because once that cipher pops, that's it. It's over for you. You won't be able to stop anything else. At most, you'll be playing for like what? A tie? Something? Maybe even a loss. So that transitions into the following example. Knowing when to pressure a cipher. We can look back at the example that I just stated about the cipher being at 50 and how you would need to know when to pressure a cipher, etc., etc. For simplicity's sake, I'm not going to be make it out as if you are any hunter, though. I'm not going to make it out as if like you're a BQ or you're a violinist or you're a Wu Chang or something, because obviously certain hunters have an easier time at being able to move back and forth between ciphers compared to other hunters. That's just a given fact. We have hunters like we have hunters like BQ, we have hunters like Wu Chang compared to hunters like Ripper, hunters like Gamekeeper, who need traits or need special perks in order to pressure ciphers properly. So yeah, for simplicity's sake, I will not be assuming that there is a specific hunter. Now, assume that you are chasing, like I said earlier, a seer or a prospector. If you notice that the kite is going on too long, like say the kite started at 2 ciphers and you see that a cipher pops at that kite and the seer's only injured and you still have not hit anybody, you still have not knocked the seer, that is sign number 1 that you should probably go start pressuring ciphers. At that point, the chase is taking too long. And if that chase continues on, by the time you get that knock, the cipher will be either close to prime to where they can just rescue, and then after that, the cipher pops after the rescue gets finished, or the cipher gets primed during the kite, the survivor goes down, and then the ciphers pop, and then you have to redo that chase all over again. And then at that point, they can make a dungeon play in which they could possibly get a 3-man out. Now, this example as well is also under the assumption that the hunter has already gotten 1 survivor killed. So yes. Sign number 2 would be that if you don't see a survivor for an extended period of time. For all my veteran hunters, you all know the feeling of having seen all the survivors at one cipher and then one of them magically disappears. That feeling as if, like, let's say, like, you know, they're trying to push a cipher that's like, you know, at like what, 70% or something. All 4 survivors are there. They're eating hits. You know, the hunter is like going back and forth, switching, keeping them off the cipher. All of that jazz is going on. All that good stuff. All that's happening. And then out of nowhere, as the hunter, you see that somebody's missing. If somebody is missing, most likely they are decoding a cipher. That is what is most likely happening. They are starting a brand new cipher because they recognize that you're going to defend that cipher with your life and you are not going to let up. You are going to stay on that cipher until everyone is down. So they have started a new cipher. That is the most probable reason why they have left and they are not there and you have not seen them for what, like more than 30 seconds, 40 seconds. That is the most likely the reason why that occurs. Now, now to the final point of the guide, I will be going on how to chase and when to leave chase. Now, chase stems from knowing your target being the survivor. Some default characters that I feel as a hunter you should never chase go as the following: mercenary, forward, gravekeeper, and officer. These 5 characters should almost never be chased early game, as they pretty much guarantee that you will lose the game with how long the kite will be. Now, I am assuming this is played at the highest skill level possible, so I am not accounting for any mistakes. I am assuming that the survivors know what they are doing and they are not making any stupid mistakes. That is what I am basing that off of. Tournament, pretty much. Now, some characters can be chased in certain areas or shouldn't be chased in certain areas. An example of this would be Priestess in Hospital. You should almost never chase a Priestess in Hospital. On the other hand, if a Priestess was, say, in Forest, then that is a more feasible chase. It would be easier to catch than in Hospital. Knowing the survivors' kits and knowing what areas those survivors are strongest in is a key asset to being able to chase effectively as a hunter. Not to mention, as a hunter, you also need to be wary of your abilities. Some survivors carry, as we know, 3-9, which is broken windows and borrowed time. So sometimes you may not want to use your abilities if you know they're going to have a speed boost from those quirks. So that way then you know that you didn't just waste your ability on a gamble. With that being said, guys, that's going to be all for the Hunter's Basics, guys. I hope that this helps you and you can all learn something from this guide. A link to the Survivor's Basics guides will be into the description of the video, as well as a link to the coaching server. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the video. And if you want to show more support for the channel, press that join button and become a member of the channel. Thank you all for watching. Love you all. I'm Zeus, and I'm out. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for watching.